on a subject that lies at the heart of inclusive justice, that is reaffirming the constitutional vision of justice for tribals. As we acknowledge and honor the valor and strength of our defense personnel, it's equally important to recognize another foundation pillar of the nation, our tribal communities. India is a land defined by its pluralism, a mosaic of cultures, languages, religions, and communities that coexist across its vast and varied terrain. Among the many threads that weave the Indian social fabric, the tribal communities stand as one of the most distinct, resilient, and yet persistently marginalized segment. Numbering over 85 million, the tribal population comprises roughly 8.6% of India's total citizenry. And yet, their presence, while statistically significant, remains largely peripheral in the national imagination. The Indian Constitution, its framing, recognizes the historical injustices faced by the tribal communities, not merely in economic terms, but as a product of long-standing social exclusion and physical isolation. Paradoxically, while the tribes referred by various linguistic variants, such as Adivasi, Vanvasi, Pahadi, Anusuchit Janjati, are often celebrated as the original inhabitants of the subcontinent, yet the indigenous people, or the aborigines rooted in the soil of their ancestral lands, have been largely identified and defined by the narratives imposed from outside, more particularly during the colonial era, resulting in their discrimination shaped by geographical seclusion and often stemming from systemic neglect. Ladies and gentlemen, what makes Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh's tribal landscape unique? Historian Ramachandra Guha once said, "The tribes are not backward people. They are the people pushed to the margins of modernity." Nowhere does this statement hold truer than in Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh, where the very idea of constitutional inclusion for tribal communities intersects with some of the most unique, complex, and historically overlooked realities as compared to the rest of the country. Demographically, in Jammu and Kashmir, more than 11.9% of the population identifies as scheduled tribes, comprising predominantly of Gujars, Bakarwals, followed by Gaddis, Sippis, and those in Pir Panjals and Chenab Valley and the Kashmir Valley. In Ladakh, an overwhelming 97% of the total population is scheduled tribes. Combined, the population of scheduled tribes of both the union territories counts to 1.5 million, which in itself clamors for urgent need to bring them at par with the broader socio-economic fabric of the nation. Although there is a significant tribal presence in other states, with scheduled tribes constituting 5.71% of the total population in Himachal Pradesh and that of 3% in Uttarakhand, but what makes this place a tribal landscape unique can be answered simply in the context of the scale and the diversity of its tribal communities. The Union Territories of Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh is home to a wide spectrum of scheduled tribes, including the Gujars, Bakarwals, Gaddis, Sippis, Bot, Brokpa, Balti, Mon, Changpa, Ghara, Purigpa, and Veda, all of which have distinct ethnic, linguistic, and socio-economic identities. Added recently through 2024 amendment are Pahari ethnic groups like Gadda Brahmins, Kolis, and Padri tribe. Together, these groups represent not only religious and linguistic plurality, but also vastly different modes of life ranging from nomadic transhumance to pastoralism and also seasonal agriculturalists. Ladies and gentlemen, the question is as why the Jammu and Kashmir was chosen as a place for this conference. In present times, with the abrogation of Article 370 and extension of central laws to the twin UTs, the region finds itself in a position of extraordinary opportunity to not merely implement tribal welfare schemes, but to shape, model, and lead the next generation of tribal rights discourse in India. Therefore, what makes the region, more particularly Kashmir, the ideal host for a tribal conference is not just that it's catching up with the rest of India's tribal rights framework, but that it offers conditions ripe for policy innovation and new ideas suited best for tribal welfare. The unique yet omnipresent challenges this area faces sets the base for it to be looked as a prototype for tribal development And this conference would serve as a collective step towards the institutional object of ensuring welfare and holistic empowerment of tribal communities. The purpose would not be ceremonial, but would also be structural, since it aims to bring together tribal community members, the leaders, policymakers, and legal service institutions from across jurisdiction to address concerns which are not abstract, but are specific to the lived realities of the tribal citizens. Since this conference comes at a deeply significant moment, shaped by a backdrop of recent incidents affecting as much a tribal highlanders as an urbanite, and given the unique socio-economic and geopolitical and strategic dynamics here, which is unlike than in any other state or union territory, it presents the most compelling case for discourse in India's tribal justice agenda, since it would potentially write a unique chapter for tribal inclusion, robustly underlining the tribal policy in India. The Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh is a place where the listening must begin. The purpose of this conference is not only to take discourse forward, but to bridge the gaps that we have long kept the tribal communities at the margins of the geographical map and the interactive conversations. So today, we attempt to redraw that map not just by words or intent, but through a simple yet powerful gesture of inclusivity. A few moments ago, we witnessed tribal artisans and craftsmen stepping onto this very stage to personally present their handcrafted pieces to the honorable dignitaries on the dais. The gesture was a conscious departure from the conventional mode of honoring dignitaries with the intent to place the tribal artisans at the heart of this conference, not just as participants, but as flag bearers of our rich and vibrant heritage. In presenting these souvenirs to our esteemed guests, we are not only reaffirming the adage that tribal communities are a part of shared national identity through their art, craft, and rich culture, but are also ensuring that their presence and participation is actually seen and felt and does not remain confined to the topics of our deliberations. In fact, the whole idea is to give an entirely new dimension to the preambular precept of social justice by acknowledging and giving recognition to a timeless piece of cultural heritage and to place it at the center of the table and, of course, its craftsmen under the spotlight of our collective efforts. In context, it is with a sense of extreme satisfaction and elation that this gathering may be informed that post-lunch session, we are holding a mega legal services and awareness camp at Harvan, aimed at bridging the gap between tribal communities, the justice system, and the government institutions, promoting inclusion and advancing the constitutional mandate of equal access to justice. The event will include a series of structural activities, among which a key feature will be the setting up of informative stalls regarding schemes and benefits by various government functionaries, enabling direct engagement between the government departments and the beneficiaries, serving the purpose of this conference, bridging the gaps. Now, turning our focus to the scheme, which was